Hi, my name's John. Welcome to another Sunday night nightcap. I've certainly seemed to have shaken off the worst of the COVID and I'm probably at about 75% now, so I'm certainly feeling a lot better and a lot happier. I've got a bit of time in the workshop this week. I repair a cast brass, it's like an inlet manifold come carburettor off a really old vintage car. I'm not sure what sort of car it's off, but I'm sure one of you lads will be able to come along and tell us exactly what it's off. Unfortunately, when I did the recording, it's a little bit of silver soldering, I didn't have the microphone turned on the camera, so there's no sound. So what I'll probably do is I'll do a voiceover because the video footage is good, it's worth looking at, and I'll just do a voiceover on that little bit. I'll also strip and evaluate an old DC Dynamo I've been given. I'm going to try and set it up so I can drive it with my Stuart Turner steam engine, its steam rallies, and run probably light bulbs with it. Anyway, we'll have a little look at that. I've got this cast iron elbow. It's part of an induction system on a really old car, and as you can see the end flange is broken off. It's made of brass, cast brass by the look of it. It should be decent material because it's old. It does fit together perfectly, so what I'm going to attempt to do is repair it using silver solder. I've cleaned the parts up with a wire wheel and I put a stud there, hold it all together. I've put some washers on the bottom to act as heat sinks because the bottom part is actually very thin compared to the top part. I'm going to silver solder it. Silver solder melts a couple hundred degrees lower than the brass, so I shouldn't have any problems really. The heat source I'm using is oxypropane. I used to have oxyacetylene, but I don't have acetylene at home now, and I found this oxypropane to be just as good for brazing. You can't weld with it, but there's certainly plenty of heat for brazing. I'm going to try and get a little bit of heat into it. Obviously I'm going to favour the big part, and I'm going to put some easy flow silver solder flux onto it, and I've actually got some pre-coated solder that I'm going to use to solder it with. You can see all the oil and crab boiled out of it. That's ordinary silver solder. Dip it into the flux and run a little bit of flux round, and that will slowly but surely soak into the joint of the job and finish cleaning it. I've turned the light out just so I can see the colour of the brass easier. You can see it's like a dull red there. That's just about the right temperature for the silver solder to go in. You see once it touches it, you like a little fine glossy line, that's the solder running around. The capillary action pulls the solder around, and all we want is a nice silver ring all the way around there. It's going quite nicely, I'm really happy with it. The secret is not to put too much on. You don't need a great lot of solder, and that can't be a fillet on here because as a nut goes really up tight up against that flange. But the solder's certainly doing its job, knowing when to stop there, and I think we're about ready to stop there now. You see the solder, how fluid it is. Got to put a little bit more in, you can't really help yourself. Definitely all the way around now. That'll give no problems at all. That's worked out really nice. It'll take very little cleaning up, a little bit of work with a needle file and a polish, and it basically should be as good as new. Right, back in the garage now, a little bit of fine emery tape, polish it up, and then a little bit of brasso, and basically you'll never know it's been repaired. I really enjoy repairing stuff like this because that'll still be in use when I'm not here, I would imagine. Very satisfying it is. I've had this old DC Dynamo for quite some time now. It was given to me by a friend, and the idea is to couple it up to my Stuart Turner steam engine to make a generating plant. It's an old Dynamo out of a set of traffic lights, I believe. It's 110 volt, rated at 4 amps at 1500 RPM. I'll get a close-up shot of the nameplate. It's quite an old unit. It's got lovely brushes, all the brush gears working, which is the sort of thing you wanted to demonstrate sort of steam rally. Commutator's in good condition, there's very little wear on it. Unfortunately the bearings are shot, which you'd expect. I'm going to put a drill on the front of it, run it up and see if it does actually put power out, and then strip it, and probably just a set of bearings and a good paint job's all it's going to need. I've hooked my meter on and it's showing the resistance to the windings, which is a good sign. And spin it by hand, it's putting voltage out, so I'll put the drill onto it. Right, so we'll get right, some 3-pin voltage, 80 volts, and it's doing nowhere near as fast as it needs to be. You can hear the bearings rumbling, so it does want a set of bearings. There's some damaged wire in here as well. It wants new wires putting into it, but I'm sure we'll be able to make something out of this. Right, I've nicked it through with a grinder just enough to allow it to come off. That's it. Right, we'll take this cover plate off first. There'll only be 2 bearings, I would think, one at each end. Right, those are just spinning around, so there must be nuts and bolts from the inside, in which case it must be these ones here that need to come off, and it must split around there. I think the other 3 at AF. Right, that's definitely moving. I'm going to take the brush gear off this end just so I don't damage anything. So I need to get a decent photograph of this lot, or a decent bit of video of this lot. All it goes back together. This is nice stuff. In fact, I think basically all that can stop in there. I'll take the brushes out so the brushes don't get damaged. Certainly plenty of material left on them. See, there's very little wear on the commutator, so it's possible it's done very little work indeed. There's a nut on that end there, that'll need to come off. just wishful thinking, hoping they might just shock loose. And it has. Right, so that is quite a meaningful bolt, I think. Just going to put a mark on this to make sure I get it back together. The same place. Just one mark. Like that, that's all it takes. Definitely signs of movement there. Right, so we've got some movement now. I think it'll be the shaft probably stuck on the end of that bearing that's stopping it from coming any further. And take some of the rust off there. It certainly appears to be springing, and that's the part there that's stopping it. I'll try a little brass drift on that and see if that helps any. Right, that's not moving. They're definitely nuts and bolts through there, so there's not much I can do with that. This rear casing does split and come off, but we'll be taking the brush gear off there, which I don't really want to do if I can help it. It's just that seized in there, I think. Right, it's decided to give in, so hopefully now that comes out of there like that, and that's definitely what you call an armature. The hair's got a, oh, that's not, just a piece of shite. This is in good nick. See the copper field windings in there. This is real old school stuff. Obviously I'm going to change them, put some new wire into there, but that's not the end of the world. Got one that bearing on there to change, and there'll be one in there. And I think that should just knock out of that bearing that way. I think. Put some nice blocks of wood to lift it up and we'll have a go at it. I'll take some of the rust off the shaft first. I might end up making a puller to try and pull this end casing off, I'm not sure. Give it a bit of exploratory tap first and see what happens, but I have got my doubts. It's actually coming off easier than I thought it would. It's giving in quite nicely, just about off. Last little bit. And there could be a rag on the end of the shaft. It's just about off. I think I'll knock it back on and run a file around the end of the shaft just to make sure. Right. A bit of applied science instead of brute force. And you can see in the end of there that bearing is well and truly knackered. I'll put this in the lathe and polish it up. And also polish the commutator. And when you're polishing a commutator, you must not use emery paper, you've got to use sandpaper, the stuff wood borders and joiners use. Right, so now we can see what's going on in here. That's the mark on the that I put on the casing. I'm just going to put a mark on here as well and make sure it goes back in the same place. Right, so now we should be able to get this off and get the bearing out. They're metric bolts, that's, I'm sure you're metric. It seems strange on something as old as this. Definitely an added on bit this. Right, so that's the bearing in there. It's actually slack in the housing. Certainly not tight. Housing is not worn, it's just, but the bearing's well shot. Right, I got the other bearing off quite easily, and you can see there's some numbers on there, so I should be able to get one of them quite easily. Made in England, that's a bit of a novelty these days. And the bigger bearing has also got numbers on there. So I'll go and have a look on the internet so I can find some of those. Hard to tell what it says, but I'm sure if I blow it up on the computer screen from there, I'll be able to get something from it. I'll probably end up getting a shielded bearing. That's to say a bearing with a just dirt shield in like that. Like a sealed bearing. Numbers are quite plain on that one. Some of these old English bearings are quite expensive, the imperial ones. I've got quite a few metric, but I haven't got any imperial. That's definitely not original, that's been put on at a later date. Been machined and put on it to hold that bearing in. I'll make something better than that. It's horrible, that. It's kind of just been, it's done the job, it's kept it pushed in, but that'll have been a proper housing originally. There's 4 little holes, they've been drilled in, definitely in, and added on extra this bit. Not to worry, I'm sure I'll be able to sort something out and make a nice job of this.